Hey everybody, it's Jeff from New York. Today we're going to talk about the Theater District, which is basically a sub-district of Midtown. It runs on the south from 40th Street up north to 54th Street and east to west from 6th Avenue to 8th Avenue. And through the middle of it runs good old Broadway, which actually runs diagonal. It's one of the only streets in Manhattan that goes diagonally. Everything else is on a grid, with, of course, the exception of the old financial district downtown. Broadway is the longest street in Manhattan. It runs from the very southern tip to the very northern tip. So when people say Broadway, they think theater, but actually Broadway runs through so many districts. However, as it runs through the Theater District, it becomes known as the Great White Way. Speaking of Broadway, most people, including local New Yorkers, are confused with the terms off-Broadway and off-Broadway. So I'm here to give you a free lesson today, and all you have to do is click on like and subscribe. The term off-Broadway refers to theaters that seat between 100 and 499 people. The term off-Broadway refers to theaters that seat less than 100 people. So let's say you took a mega hit such as Hamilton and put it in a theater right on Broadway in a theater that seats less than 100 people. That play would be considered off-Broadway. Many people, including regular theater goers, enjoy the intimate setting of an off or an off-Broadway show. Look at it this way. Think of your favorite musician. Would you rather see your favorite musician in a stadium setting with 100,000 people, or in a small lounge with less than 100 people up close and personal? That's the difference between Broadway and off-Broadway. But as with most things, when you peel away the artistic value and the culture, everything comes down to money, and investors want to attract large crowds, not small ones. Now let's get a move on and check out some of these larger theaters. The Nederlander opened in 1921 on 41st Street. It's a 1,232-seat theater. Some of its famous plays include The Little Foxes, Inherit the Wind, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, Rent, Guys and Dolls, Brighton Beach Memoirs, Honeymoon in Vegas, and currently Pretty Woman the Musical. The new Amsterdam Theater was completed on 42nd Street in 1903. It's currently leased by the Disney Company. When it opened, it was home to the Ziegfeld Follies, and then in 1937 it became a movie theater, and years later it just became a dilapidated, abandoned building. In 1997, Disney leased the building and started running plays there. Plays include The Lion King, Mary Poppins, and currently Aladdin. Who says you can't eat cheap and on the go in this city? There's McDonald's everywhere you look. This one on 42nd Street is showing its Broadway finest with a few thousand light bulbs. The new Victory Theater was built in 1900 and is the oldest operating theater in New York. Few theaters have gone through as many incarnations as the Victory. It started out as a glamorous theater known as the Theater Republic. It eventually became Broadway's first burlesque club. The shows were very racy for their day, but black tie attire was strictly required. In 1942, Mayor LaGuardia banned burlesque, and the theater was renamed the New Victory in honor of the mood set by World War II. As 42nd Street fell into a seedy decay, as with most of the Times Square area, the New Victory became the first XXX movie house on the block in 1972. With the Disneyfication of 42nd Street and Times Square in the 1990s, the theater was given a new life. Shows now specialize in kids' entertainment and offers children their first theatrical experience. TKTS. If you're in town and want to see a show, and if you don't have tickets already, this is the place to stop by. TKTS is operated by the Theater Development Fund. Buying your tickets here can save you 20 to 50% off. The earlier you get here, the better your choices. Shubert Alley is considered to be the geographical center of the Broadway theater area. It splits the block between 8th Avenue and Broadway, linking 44th to 45th Street. The alley was originally designed to be a fire exit between the Shubert Theater and the Booth Theater, but it quickly became a hangout for theater goers before and after shows as well as intermissions. Today, marquee posters line the sides of Shubert Alley as theater crowds gather. The Neil Simon Theater was built in 1927 and is located on 52nd Street. The longest running show was Hairspray, which ran for well over 2,500 performances. The building is owned by the Nederlander organization and was named for the American playwright Neil Simon. Some of its productions include Funny Face, Porgy and Bess, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, Once Upon a Mattress, West Side Story, Annie, Brighton Beach Memoirs, Biloxi Blues, The Music Man, Hairspray, Rain, A Tribute to the Beatles, Catch Me If You Can, Jesus Christ Superstar, and Gigi. The August Wilson Theater is located on 52nd Street and was built in 1925, then called the Guild Theater. Some of the theater's productions include Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Bubbling Brown Sugar, Annie, Carrie, My Fair Lady, Smokey Joe's Cafe, Little Shop of Horrors, and Jersey Boys. In 1998, the Roundabout Theater Company took over a theater located on 54th Street that has a history like no other. The theater for most of its life was a studio and was the venue for many radio and television shows, including game shows and soap operas from the 60s and 70s. Prior to the Roundabout Theater Company turning it into a theater, the studio lived another life. If you haven't guessed it yet, this studio on 54th Street was the famous, or perhaps infamous, Studio 54 in the late 70s to early 80s. Perhaps the world's best-known discotheque and club to the rich and famous. You can see that the theater has kept the original Studio 54 glass doors on the front entrance. The Hirshfield Theater was built in 1924 and was originally named the Martin Beck Theater. It was the most opulent theater of its time. It has a seating capacity of over 1,400 and has dressing rooms for up to 200 actors. Some of the most notable productions are The Pirates of Penzance, Bye Bye Birdie, Oliver, Man of La Mancha, Into the Woods, Grand Hotel, Guys and Dolls, Annie, The Sound of Music, Kiss Me Kate, Sweet Charity, Hair, and Kinky Boots. This is the Ambassador Theater, which was built in 1921 and located on 49th Street. The building, which is a New York City landmark, is situated diagonally on its site to fit the maximum number of seats possible. Some of its productions were The Diary of Anne Frank, Godspell, Leader of the Pack, Dream Girls, Bring in the Noise, Bring in the Funk, and Chicago. This is the Winter Garden Theater, which is located on Broadway between 50th and 51st Streets. It was built in 1896 by the Vanderbilts to be an American horse exchange, but in 1911 the Shubert brothers leased the building and redesigned it to be a theater. The Winter Garden has one of the lowest production turnovers in the theater district, which is a very good thing. Only 5 productions have played here since 1982. Cats, Mamma Mia, Rocky the Musical, Wolf Hall, and School of Rock. All of the theaters in the theater district have stage doors. They're meant to get the cast and crew in and out of the building without much fanfare from all the crowds in the front of the building. However, many times before or after a theater performance, performers will come out and greet the crowd waiting for autographs and photos. It gives the actors a chance to say thanks to their fans, and after all, they're now on Broadway thanks to their followers. The Shubert Theater is located on 44th Street and Shubert Alley. It opened in 1913 with the production of Caesar and Cleopatra. The theater holds the record for the longest running show in Broadway history, A Chorus Line, which ran for well over 6,100 performances from 1975 to 1990. The Shubert Theater is also the usual venue for the annual Tony Awards. Some notable past productions include The Gay Divorcee, The Philadelphia Story, Pal Joey, Kiss Me Kate, Bye Bye Birdie, Oliver, Buddy, The Buddy Holly Story, Crazy for You, Chicago, Gypsy, Spamalot, and Matilda the Musical. The Walter Kerr Theater is on 48th Street and was built in 1921. With 975 seats, it's one of the smaller theaters in the district. It was originally named the Ritz Theater. The building was vacant between 1965 and 1971, and Triple X movies were played there for a period of time after it reopened. After a big renovation and a name change, Walter Kerr was a theater critic, the theater reopened once again and has since hosted 7 productions that have won Tony Awards for Best Play. Some productions include My Sister Eileen, Angels in America, Grey Gardens, A Bronx Tale, A Catered Affair, and A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. Sardi's is a well-known landmark restaurant in the heart of the theater district on 44th Street. It is world famous for the hundreds of characters of show business celebrities that adorns its walls. The current location has been open since 1927. Business was slow at first, so the owner Sardi hired a Russian refugee named Alex Gard to draw Broadway celebrities in exchange for one meal a day. Over time, the restaurant became very successful with the critics, locals, tourists, and most importantly, the theater crowd. The artist also became quite famous and wealthy, but never accepted more than his free meal from the owners. While the Sardi family name is Italian, the cuisine is not. Rather, it tends towards English food, a continental menu. Today, the restaurant is a Broadway institution. It's the birthplace of the Tony Award, and the restaurant itself has received a special Tony Award for providing a transient home and comfort station for theater folk. For years, the Tony nominations have been announced from Sardi's, as well as many other Broadway events, press conferences, and celebrations. The Lyric Theater is located on 43rd Street. It was built in 1903 and has a seating capacity of a little over 1,900, making it the second largest house on Broadway just after the Gershwin Theater, which is slightly larger. Like many Broadway theaters, the Lyric was a movie house for a good period of time as well as a nightclub before it fell into disrepair and was condemned. The city took over the theater and restored it in 1996. It was actually two theaters, the Apollo, not to be confused with the one on 125th Street in Harlem, and the Lyric. Both theaters were combined during the renovations. Some recent productions are Ragtime, Jesus Christ Superstar, 42nd Street, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Spider-Man, and On the Town. The Lunt-Fontainne Theater is located on 46th Street and was built in 1910. It was previously known as the Globe Theater. The theater was designed with comfort in mind. On nights, a mechanical roof could open, giving an open-air feeling to the theater. It also featured individually cooled seats, believe it or not, by using ice, or heated seats using hot air from underneath. This is all nice, however, the roof has never been opened since the theater was built, and I'm not sure how that ice thing worked out. The theater has been renovated inside and out, and as you can see, the exterior is stunning. Some of the theater's productions include Ziegfeld Follies, Goldilocks, Sound of Music, Sunshine Boys, Hello Dolly, Beatlemania, Peter Pan, The Wiz, Titanic, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, and Finding Neverland. The theater district still has many glorious movie houses. Most of the old XXX theaters on 42nd Street are now mainstream and family-friendly, such as this AMC and Regal Theater. However, there are still some adult shops in Times Square. Their numbers have dwindled significantly, and they seem to have become somewhat more mainstream, for lack of a better word, and they cater to the tourist crowd who expect to see such shops like this in the theater district. Gone are the days of men in raincoats and sunglasses. These days it's more of a museum atmosphere, and if you're in the mood to shop, no other place in the city can give you more bang for your buck, so to speak. By the way, don't forget to salute the American flag on the way in, and pass the hand sanitizer. The Eugene O'Neill Theater is located on 49th Street and was built in 1925. The Book of Mormon is the current production and holds the box office record for this theater, $2.2 million in just 9 performances. Some past productions include The Odd Couple, Yentl, California Suite, Annie, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, M. Butterfly, Grease, Death of a Salesman, The Full Monty, Nine, and of course The Book of Mormon. The Majestic Theater is located on 44th Street and seats 1,645 people. The theater was built in 1927, and both the interior and exterior are designated New York City landmarks. Some of the productions at the Majestic Theater include Porgy and Bess, Carousel, South Pacific, The Music Man, Camelot, Funny Girl, Breakfast at Tiffany's, Fiddler on the Roof, The Wiz, I Remember Mama, Grease, 42nd Street, and as can be seen here, Phantom of the Opera. The Drama Bookshop has been located on 40th Street since 1917, catering to the theater crowd. They sell a huge selection of books relating to all areas of the New York theater scene. The Longacre Theater is located on 48th Street at the northern edge of the theater district. It was built in 1912 and named after Longacre Square, the original name for Times Square before New York Times moved into the hood. Okay, so a short story here. The builder of the theater was Henry Frizet, who, at the time, was owner of the Boston Red Sox. Frizet needed cash to build the Longacre Theater, so he traded Babe Ruth to the New York Yankees. They say the theater is cursed because of the Babe Ruth story, and it has been said that producers, actors, musicians, and stagehands avoid associating with the theater altogether because of the curse. In fact, the Longacre Theater has produced many Tony Award-winning plays in its long history. I would still bring my lucky penny if I was attending a show, however. Here are some of Longacre's productions. The Ritz, Ain't Misbehaving, Children of a Lesser God, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, La Cage aux Folles, Of Mice and Men, and You Can't Take It With You. The Imperial Theater seats about 1,400 people and is located on 45th Street. The Shubert organization opened this venue in 1923, and it was built to replace the Lyric Theater, which was outdated then but has since been restored. The theater was designed and built specifically for musical productions. Some of the productions include Gypsy, Carnival, Oliver, Fiddler on the Roof, Cabaret, Pippin, They're Playing Our Song, Dreamgirls, Les Miserables, and Nice Work If You Can Get It. and is currently the home of, again, Les Miserables, or known as Les Mis. The St. James Theater is located on 44th Street and was the original site of Sardi's restaurant in 1927. The theater has a seating capacity of 1,710. It was originally named the Nederlander Theater and has had several well-known owners, including the Astors and the Shuberts. Some of the productions include Oklahoma, The King and I, The Pajama Game, Hello Dolly, Barnum, My One and Only, The Who's Tommy, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, The Producers, Gypsy, American Idiot, Hair, Bring It On the Musical, Bullets Over Broadway. Some of the theaters we're about to check out are the Golden, the Jacobs, the Schoenfeld, and the Booth. All are located next to each other on 45th Street. All are owned by the Shubert organization and have a rich history of their own. One might wonder, why would the Shubert organization build 4 theaters, or basically a complex of similar architectural style, right next to each other? Every good question has a good answer. The main difference between the Booth, Jacobs, Golden, and Schoenfeld theaters are seating capacity. If a production wasn't doing so well, it would be moved to the smaller venue. If it was really popular, it would be moved to the larger venue. Also, as a production runs its course, ticket sales seem to drop over time. The production is simply moved next door. Pretty smart, huh? As with many of the shows on Broadway, the merchandising stand brings in hefty margins, such as this one for Wicked at the Gershwin Theater. Speaking of shopping, this is the Theater District Shopping Court. If you're looking for something to do while waiting for your show to start, this is a place to visit. Here you can find handbags, jewelry, scarves, games, and even household items, all different kinds of flea market type items just waiting for the tourist dollar. This is the Broadhurst Theater, which opened in 1917 and is located on 44th Street. It's owned by the Shubert Theater. The theater was constructed to house both musicals and plays, which it has done so successfully for more than 90 years. An exception to the theater's successful runs was the production of Kelly in 1965. Kelly is infamous for being Broadway's biggest flop, closing after just one performance. The building is considered a New York City landmark, and some of its productions included Cabaret, The Sunshine Boys, Dancing, Amadeus, The Tap Dance Kid, Death of a Salesman, Once Upon a Mattress, Fosse, Into the Woods, Les Miserables, Equus, A Streetcar Named Desire, and, as seen here, Mamma Mia. This is the Barrymore Theater, located on 47th Street, and is named after actress Ethel Barrymore. The theater opened in 1928 with the production of The Kingdom of God, a play selected by the leading lady Ethel Barrymore, who went on to star in many other productions at her namesake theater. Some of the productions included Hurly-Burly, Rumors, The Sisters Rosenwig, Indiscretions, The Glass Menagerie, and The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, which won a Tony Award for Best Play in 2015. The Minskoff is one of the larger theaters in the theater district with over 1,600 seats. Most Broadway theaters are located on side or cross streets, unlike the Minskoff, which is actually located on Broadway. It was built in 1973, and the theater is one of the newest in the historic theater district. Some of the productions to come out of the Minskoff are Pippin, West Side Story, The Tap Dance Kid, Cabaret, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, Sunset Boulevard, Saturday Night Fever, Fiddler on the Roof, and The Lion King. This is the Music Box Theater, which opened in 1921 and is located on 45th Street. With 860 seats, it's one of Broadway's smaller theaters. Some of the productions include Death Trap, Agnes of God, A Few Good Men, Amadeus, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, The Heidi Chronicles, and King Charles III. The Brooke Atkinson Theater is located on 47th Street. The theater was built in 1926 and quickly fell into disuse until 1945 when CBS bought the building. Known as Studio 59, CBS used the theater for television shows such as I've Got a Secret and What's My Line. In 1960, the theater was named after theater critic Brooks Atkinson and returned to legitimate theater use. Some of the notable productions include Lolita, Noses Off, Benefactors, Shadowlands, and The Iceman Cometh. The Helen Hayes, also known as the Little Theater, is located on 44th Street. Note in this photo, Sardi's is the building on the left. With only 597 seats, it's the smallest theater on Broadway, and it gave birth to what became known as the Little Theater movement in the early 20th century. When the theater was built in 1912, it only had 300 seats, and if you remember earlier in the video, that would have placed this theater into the category of off-Broadway. The goal was to create intimate productions, and some of those productions included Mummenschanz, Prelude to a Kiss, Dirty Blonde, Say Goodnight Gracie, Xanadu, and Rock of Ages. The Marquis Theater is Broadway's newest theater, which was built in 1986. It seats over 1,600 and is located on 46th Street. The Marquis Theater features state-of-the-art backstage facilities and a sleek modern auditorium. Some of the past productions include Gypsy, Men of La Mancha, The Goodbye Girl, Victor Victoria, Annie Get Your Gun, Thoroughly Modern Millie, La Cage aux Folles, Crybaby, 9 to 5, Evita, and Penn and Teller. The Friedman Theater, formerly known as the Biltmore Theater, is located on 47th Street and was built in 1925. Like other theaters in the area, it was used as a television studio in the 1950s and 60s before returning to legitimate theater use. In 1987, a fire that was ruled as arson destroyed the interior of the theater, and it sat empty for 14 years. Years of neglect and vandalism made the future of this landmark building bleak. Buyers lined up, but because the city's landmark rules stated that the building could only be used for legitimate theater, many of the buyers lost interest. In 2001, the Manhattan Theater Club purchased the building as a permanent home for its productions. Some of the productions include Dewsbury, Rabbit Hole, Come Back Little Sheba, Good People, The Country House. The Richard Rodgers was built in 1925 and is located on 46th Street. The theater has the distinction of having the greatest number of Tony Award-winning Best Plays and Best Musicals, a total of 10, more than any other theater on Broadway. Some past productions include Chicago, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, 9, Lost in Yonkers, Footloose, Moving Out, and a little-known production called Hamilton. So before we go today, I wanted to bring this picture of 42nd Street back up. If Manhattan streets could talk, 42nd Street would have some awesome stories to tell. No other street in the city has gone through so many changes during the course of its long and sordid history. Things started going downhill for much of the mid and late 20th century. The street, nicknamed the Deuce by some hardcore city folk, was home to many activities often considered unsavory. During this time, the street was overrun with drug dealers, prostitution, chain snatchers, junkies, grindhouse or XXX theaters, passed-out homeless people, pickpockets, and so many seedy subcultures that are too numerous to mention here. The running joke was, it's called 42nd Street because if you spend more than 40 seconds on it, you're asking for trouble. In the early 1990s, New York City government decided to clean up the Times Square area. 42nd Street intersects Broadway at the center of Times Square. The city took over 6 of the street's historic theaters, and in 1993, Disney bought the New Amsterdam Theater. It is said that this was the beginning of the Disneyfication of Times Square. The Deuce has now become home to legitimate theaters as well as mainstream movie theaters, shops, restaurants, and attractions that draw millions into the area that was once avoided by most tourists as well as New Yorkers. And finally, yep, Disneyfication is a real word. Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines it as the transformation of something real or unsettling into a carefully controlled and safe entertainment environment. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to check out my other 4K videos and narrated photo stories.